Very, very important. I think we've both, we didn't coordinate our outfits today, but I'm liking to see we've got the chains and the glasses going on. This is working well. Drieke, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to have a chat with you. For those of you that don't know ITB, we have had the privilege of working with Timberland on their Nature Needs Heroes campaign. We are a business really driven by driving impact through influence. And we'll discuss what influence and marketing means. I know that Drieke and I already talked about kind of very good views on what that is in today's landscape. And I think what we really want to do is drill down into that a little bit today. But, you know, we really did have a great campaign with Nature Needs Heroes together. And Drieke, I would love to talk a bit more about it, but really to kind of begin to look at, I think, what that evolution of that word influencer means. I think we should start with that before we talk about everything else, because I know you already have a really great perspective on it. And I know that, you know, influencer marketing can be a dirty word in some circles. And how can we make sure that we have this conversation talking about what influence truly means to you and to Timberland?
Mm-hmm. So, hi, Emma. Super nice to physically, virtually, metaversely see you. And I was just listening to your colleague. I am Belgian. Belgian, you know, in the European Championships. I'm very passionate about that. So go Belgium. I just want to say that while I'm here. We have a chance to end in the finals. I'm going to say it. To answer your question, I've been in the world of influence for a while. Now, prior to me joining Timberland, I was the global head or VP global for influencer marketing at Nike. So for me as a professional in this space, it's about passionately working together with people that have impact. And for me, the word passion is incredibly important. I think, and making sure that, and we will talk about that in length in this session, I think making sure for brands and influencers, whatever we want to call them, because I think that's a big debate as well. It's about joining forces and finding the common ground. And it's about being passionate about the same things. And I think that should be central in the conversations that we're going to talk about today. Like, who do you work with? How do you work with them? And things like that. I would say one word: passion.
Well, passion is a really great point to start on that. And I think, you know, we talk a lot in our work about the evolution of that word influence. And we also talk about how our business is about finding people of influence, and whether that's a celebrity or a TikTok star or a change maker, really kind of looking at what that means to a brand and to a client in terms of how can we harness their stories to tell that purpose and that passion and ultimately create impact. And I know that Timberland have always been very quietly doing amazing work, kind of environmental work with their tree initiatives, and only recently begun to very much publicly talk about it, which was what the campaign really brought to the forefront. And how influencer marketing, for however we define it in this session, played a role in that with the Nature Needs Heroes campaign. Mm-hmm. And we talk about successful campaigns kind of harnessing passion and shifting perception, as well as that performance piece and that product piece. But how has your approach to influencer marketing since the beginning of that campaign really evolved, particularly in the last 12 months, given everything that we've been going through? There's been some fantastic content that's appeared, and I'd love to kind of understand a bit more about how harnessing influence for you has evolved in your Nature Needs Heroes story.
Yeah. So great question. I think I go back helicopter view, right? Because at the beginnings and at the ends of this whole domain is about understanding who you are as a brand, and have a clear vision on that, to then say, okay, who in the family that is, and the potential family that is out there, should we be working with? And our strategy at Timberland is, you know, from that perspective, is actually pretty simple, right? So, and if you look at our brand, and as many of the brands out there, at the heart and the soul of that process is the mission and the vision of our brand. We have a clear mission, which is to inspire and equip our consumers. We call them the adventurous doers, to step outside, work together, move the world forward. And if we do that as a brand, then we achieve our vision. And our vision is to build a more greener and equitable future. Now, why am I saying that? I'm saying that because it's at the heart and the soul and the centerpiece of then building out your influencer strategy of who are the people that we're going to work with. And in today's world, right, the consumer is the influencer, right? We like, the pyramid is dead, long live the pyramid, right? So you have consumer level, you have nano level, you have micro level, you have macro level, right? And the way we look at it, it doesn't actually matter where in the pyramid the person sits, right? What is important is, does this person with influence, does he or she sync up with my identity, as in the AK brand, the values that you stand for? And I think that's really the unlock for everything. You talked about, you know, the Nature Needs Heroes campaign. We just, for April, we launched our Earth Day campaign, where again, as a brand, we say, look, the way we look at nature for Timberland, it's about two things. It's about people and it's about green. It's about not only about environmental justice, it's also about social justice, because the one cannot go without the other. So for Earth Day, we put that message front and center in our campaign. Now, from there, echoing also our brand values, we then went looking for who are the right partners for us to tell our story, to partner with us in the journey, using the moment of Earthy for sure, but in the journey of in catalyzing our brand into the global atmosphere. Long story short, we ended up from a European perspective, but globally we had a global campaign. But for example, for Europe, we ended up partnering with Flock Together. Flock Together is a London-based amazing group of people that is doing their contribution of how they want to make the journey of the outdoor and the outside, if you're in London, inclusive. And they have started their journey around their passion of birdwatching. And I think we thought it was amazing. Now, for us then to say, hey, let's work around Earth Day and give you a platform, using our brand as a platform, is beneficial for both parties, because we're clearly passionate about the same thing. We are giving them a platform. They have impact in their communities. And then I think the word that I haven't said yet is long-term, right? Long-term wise, there will be the return on investment, right? And I think that's another thing that often people overlook is, you know, what do you want to invest in short-term versus long-term, building out and growing the community of your brand, which then for you to get there, you need to partner with all the levels, right, of where people are in the so-called pyramid that I think is dead, you know, but that's another conversation.
Well, I think it's so true. And I think we really saw that when on that campaign work with you, in a way you could put a pyramid around the talent that you cast, but that wasn't the objective. That wasn't the point. Loyal Kana is a musician passionately trying to create urban green initiatives in London, for instance, or whether you're working with urban farmers or climate change activists, these people from a follower point of view, you could put into a pyramid. You could probably put them into a pyramid based on a number of other data metrics, but really it's about the story that they can tell and the awareness, but also talking to different communities and talking to different audiences. And I think that's what's really exciting when a brand kind of throws out all the data and metrics a little bit and just goes to the heart and to the truth of it all. I think the data is really important to be able to support some of the decisions that get made. But I think creatively, that storytelling piece really has to be front and center of the brief. And, we talk about people first narratives, and we talk about the importance of telling real stories, which means that we can't escape that word authentic, which ironically is so overused, it very rarely carries the weight of its true meaning. And I was wondering for you, in terms of how do you check yourself with that authenticity piece? I know that for you, it really is about what they represent and what that story is, but how do you ensure that? Because you do it very well. Other brands will go and pick great stories, but it feels contrived and it does feel inauthentic with the best will in the world. How do you maintain and keep that lens to allow that authenticity to actually come through?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with the word authentic, right? Authentic means that you're not faking it, right? So, which means that you need to be honest. Mm-hmm. And you need to be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. In order to, and it's a human thing, right? In order to be true to yourself, you need to know yourself very well. Look around you in the human world, right? People are most attracted to people who know who they are. That doesn't mean that someone needs to be overly confident. You can have the amazing fisherman who says, this is my life. This is what I am, and I'm content with that. I'm happy with that. This is my definition. What happens is automatically people get attracted to these kind of, people. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, connecting it to authentic, is the number one starting point for brands to go into a relationship, which by default, the number one non-negotiable to go into the best relationships in the human race is when you are yourself, right? So for brands, that's also the same thing. And how do you do that? By having strong value systems, by having strong, we call it in brand marketing land, CMVPs. Know who your consumer is, know what your mission is, know what your vision is. If you know that very well, then you will have that anchor point to then say, okay, who should we partner with that has these similar kind of ambitions and values and passions. And I think if you start there, you often cannot go wrong, right? Because and that is for me authentic, right? Mm-hmm. That was your question. Authentic is know who you are, stay true to that, mm-hmm. and partner with people that also have a very strong understanding but are passionate about the same kind of thing, right? That is what for me is authenticity, because if there's a disconnect between who you are and the consumer understands who you are and the people that you welcome into your family, in your house, when there's a huge disconnect, consumers will say, but I don't get this, right? And I think that's important if we think about being authentic.
And how does that authenticity marry with what the medium of influencer marketing has become. And when I say the medium, I do mean kind of that quantifying through data. And for some brands, they go to influencer platforms, maybe a bit more click and buy as a model, or perhaps it's really more of a searching via databases and things like that. What is your view on, I guess, what is more traditionally considered influencer marketing in that space? Do you think it has a place, or do you think it's something that does not allow what a brand needs to do to truly come through?
Well, I think it's the famous combination between what do you want? Are you choosing for reach, or are you choosing for engagement, or are you choosing for a healthy combination of the two? Influence and people of influence can serve ideally both, often not, right? You can pay the biggest bucks for or do a media buy of a human body, right? Because that's what but if that person, right, is completely not in sync or doesn't passionately believe in your product or what you do, your engagement will be low. Right? And for me as a marketeer, finding that balance, right, is incredibly important. And it's really the art and science, right, that you need to apply. You need to know, okay, you know what, do I want to have impact immediately, right? And what do I have in my marketing mix versus I want to make sure that people are passionately engaged with my brand, which the engagement will then resonate as much, especially when we look at, yes, you can have one macro, but if we all globally play together with the world of micro, you might get there as well with more passion and engagement, right? So it's really, and it's the job of the marketeer, right, to then look at the entire marketing mix, look at the mission ahead, and see, hey, what's what here, and what do I need? But still, then but that's maybe, again, that's my professional opinion. You can still have the biggest billboard that you book on the planet. If that person passionately is obsessed with the same things that you are, right? I still will go prioritize engagement.
Yeah.
And that's a metrics as well. That's a metric as much as the other data. Yeah.
I think it's so aligned with, how we talk when we're working with clients. We talk about performance, perception, and passion, the 3 Ps. And performance, and really what you're trying to do, are we trying to drive sales using influence? Are we trying to create brand emotion? Are we trying to create engagement and audience sentiment? And I think that is also where that pyramid structure or layers of influence, no matter where they sit in a pyramid, really come in. Because I also think, for that authentic connection, that's about the passion points, and the passion points don't often translate the people that you work with to truly express passion. If you put them on a billboard, the average consumer walking down the street will not know who they are, right? Visually, you are not going to get that instant being sold by a famous celebrity influencer type thing, which is why I think there is opportunity. Either your brand messaging has to therefore stand alone and have its own moment, or it's use of a different type of influence for that medium. And I think what the social spaces really allows is to democratize the conversation. With that democratization, though, also comes a really strong responsibility from a brand marketeer to preserve the brand and brand value so that it is consistent across all of these channels. Because I think you can very easily dilute a brand when you're having other people tell its brand story. And I think that's something that Timberland does very well and is consistent in all the different layers of influence and in all the different marketing channels that you use, what ultimately this is about the fundamental truth that you guys believe in, which is that people are nature. And so however that translates by whomever is translating that message for you, be that Flock Together, be that Loyal Kana, be that whoever, they are all talking about the same purpose. What you are then subsequently doing in the background in terms of planting trees and giving back to environment and all the other essential work that brands now have a responsibility to do, the consistency of your message is what really sticks, I think. And therefore the authenticity piece, particularly to the new audiences that you're looking to tap into, we know that Gen Z audience is very much about brands that truly are standing for something and doing what they believe. And I think therefore, have you looked at anything specific with this upcoming demographic? They're not upcoming anymore, but with this demographic that are driving purchase power and are wearing your product, have you looked at kind of specific strategies for engaging with that audience? Or is it part of what your overall strategy is and you are just talking to everyone about your common message that people are nature?
It's a very good question. I think there's some really interesting shifts going on when we talk about Gen Z and their relationship to brands in comparison to, when I was young in marketing land. And I think the big shift for all of us brands, which I think is amazing, is that in today's world, and especially into the next decade, Gen Zers and the future generation of consumers will hold or are holding brands responsible for what they are saying, and if what they are saying is syncing up with what they are doing. Gone are the days that you could send in your PR people or have it on your annual reports that this was your vision, and you then as a brand were not living up to it, right? And that's why I think it's amazing, right? Because today, and I have full confidence in that new generation, they will hold you responsible, right? Now, for brands such as ours, for example, we say to the world that our vision is to build a more equitable and greener future, right? Then we have clear action plans around that we communicate to our consumers. One is on the sustainability front, we have made a commitment that we will be net positive by 2030, which means we give more back to nature than we take. We have committed we're going to do it in three ways: natural materials, circular design, which is we create product for disassembly, which is a step further, right? And the third one is through regenerative agriculture. Now, that is commitment that we have set out that we need to deliver on, because if not, the good news is the consumers will not take it, right? They will hold us responsible. How? They will stop buying, which, they have that power. The second one is you said it yourself, we believe there's no environmental justice without social justice. Green is planet and people. You cannot, disconnect the two from each other. Now there as well, as a brand, we said we need to then act upon it, right? And what we've done, starting in North America, with everything also that is going on this space, we sat down with Black-owned organizations, listened to them, worked with them, and say, here's a program where, based on Timberland and who we are, and based on what the Black community, that, by the way, has made this brand also, together with a lot of consumers, to what it is today. They said, okay, we need the biggest support in these areas. So together, we set up a plan, we call it to work, that has 4 pillars. One is we need to get better in our own company and be more diverse. 2 is give back to the communities that made us. So we're starting to do the community work, zooming in on the famous I-95 corridor in, for people in the world, which, the New York, the Philadelphia's, the Baltimore, that's where people back then adopted our brand. So we're giving back, we're going back to the communities, working with Black-owned organizations there. Third pillar is design. A lot of young people in the world, especially from Black community, they love sneakers. They don't know that the path to sneaker culture and footwear design is industrial design. So we're working with Pencil, who is a Black-owned organization, to really help to create more awareness and access to that path. And then the fourth one is entrepreneurship. Anyway, you can read it on our responsibility section in timberland.com. But the reason why I'm saying is we need to deliver on that.
Yeah.
There's clear metrics that we have assigned, whether it's working with Black organizations or organizations from a sustainability perspective. And that pressure is also, which for me is amazing as a leader, is also being put on us by our consumers, right? Now, for a person as me working for a brand as Timberland, there's no better place for me to work, to come in and work my off, right? Knowing that I every day when I do that, I contribute, right? So having said that, going back to the world of influence, we can't do this on our own, right? So then to look globally at the innovators across whatever field it is, whether it's the creators, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's work, right? We're very driven by the work as a workwear brand combined with outdoor. Now, then to say, join us, right? Because we can't get there, and join us in this journey is looking at the world of influence beyond transaction and short term, right? Because as a brand, we have decided that for us as a brand, that's not where we want to go. We want to build the future. We want to move the world forward. It's in our mission. Now, that means that we need to have partners on our side to get there, partners of influence. The great thing with people as innovators in whatever they are very opinionated. They teach you as much as you teach them. I always say, from your influencers you learn, from your consumers you earn, right? So having them on our side is passion, right? And then throughout metrics, because you can data metrics that you also build a journey together globally, right? Grow your ecosystem globally with people that are passionate about the same things that you're passionate about.
I think we should leave it there, because that is the perfect way to end. Grow it with people that are passionate about things you're passionate about. Drieke, thank you. It's been really insightful. I don't know if we have any Q&A things that have popped up. I haven't seen anything, but I don't know if that's going to change. Potentially not, but I will kind of really just say thank you so much for your time. It has been fascinating. Oh, we do have one. What recommendations would you give to other marketeers in how to best work with influencers to tell real stories?
Yeah, very good question. So thank you from wherever you are zooming in the world. So for me, the way I look at it is it's a triangle. And I always say, what is the best thing to do for your brand? What is the best thing to do for your consumer? And what is the best thing to do for the marketplace that you're dealing with? And it's kind of a triangle, right? Then this is also how you should approach the partnerships, right? And the who, and not only the who, also the what are you doing with them? Because for me, that's equally often where things go wrong. It's you partner with people who fit that triangle, right? Because they can be the most amazing, in our case, activist on the planet, if there's no relevance for our consumer in the marketplace that the consumer lives in, global, regional, country, right? He might not be the right partner. So really selecting the people based on that. I go back to where I started in the beginning, based on the understanding of who you are, right? Because often that's where things go wrong, right? And build that portfolio in that way, but then equally making sure that what you do with them, right, is syncing up with, is it the right thing to do for the brand and what the brand stands for? Is it the right thing to do for the consumer in the marketplace that he or she lives in? And then maybe you might say, this partnership doesn't make any sense, because I cannot answer the question of why. Why am I working with these people doing what, right? If there's no clear meaning in that, then again, you're thinking very short-term, transactional, and that only gets you so far.
And I think that's there is another question here that kind of leads into that, which is, how is Timberland identifying consumers who are passionate about the same things as the brand? How are you finding that link?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So welcome to the world of marketing, right? ABCs. Brands, they build brand muses. And why do we build brand muses? Which is different than a buying segment, right? We build brand muses because this is whom we are creating the future for, right? So it's that aspirational level of consumers that allows you then to push your brand forward, right? So, and for us, when we think about consumers, right, we think about both. We think about the North Star, we think about the brand news that we define as a persona with characteristics that are, again, in relationship, not in a void, in relationship to your brand in the marketplace that you need to deal with. Because if you are a brand that only operates in America or only operates in China, your answer might be different, right? Or your questions might be different. So I think that process of how to go about it, and then yes, you still have your buying segments, which is much more business related. It's also looking in how can we grow our ecosystem, but the brand news is guiding you into the future. And those are the two things, especially brand news, that you need to focus on when you say, hey, which consumers, what are their value systems, which persona. So that's a little bit of how it works. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And yes, definitely not market by market, not one size fits all. We'll leave it there. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone who joined in and contributed as well. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the Brand Innovator Summit at Cannes. And good luck as well with your Cannes entries. And yeah, we will hopefully speak again soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much, Drieke. And thank you so much, Emma. And hey, Drieke, I got to say, I'm a big Romelu Lukaku fan from his Everton days. And I can tell you that Belgium is going to the final this time. They are.
Honestly, can I just talk about that?
Please do.
I'm telling you, based on what I'm seeing right now, we have a very, very, very good chance. Because we're killing it right now.
You are, I mean, going in, you're the favorite. I mean, I just got to say, the team, is incredibly constructed, great balance of youth, attack, yes, defense. The coach has them playing amazing. Listen, I'm totally with you. I support the Dutch, just so you know, but I mean, my team always disappoints us. So I'm not even worried about it.
I love the Dutch, but I have to admit, in this tournament, Belgium is better. I have.
Yes. You are correct. I'll be
we
thinking of
love
you.
our neighbors. We love our neighbors.
Yes.
But when you see Lukaku doing his thing and De Bruyne is in the back, there's
Yes.
no stopping us.
I know. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I'm rooting
Sorry,
for you.
you know,
Enjoy-
I'm
No.
a football lover.
It's
Yeah.
all good. Enjoy the match with Finland, and thank you, Emma, for for giving
Pleasure.
us a really cool conversation, some great insightful questions, and look forward to seeing you all in person very soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Good luck. Thanks, Drieke.
Bye.
All right. I mean, the Euros are such a big deal, right? Talking about knowing your market, knowing where your consumers are. I mean, there's so much going on in the world of football right now. And I say football because, again, other than us in the Western, across the Atlantic, nobody else calls it soccer, right? So it's a huge couple of weeks for soccer. There's Euros going on. There's Copa America going on at the same time, which is crazy. It has been my absolute pleasure to be your MC for this morning. And I will now be joined by my colleague, Andrea, who's going to be taking over as the MC for me for the second half of day one of the Cannes Brand Innovators Summit. So let's just wait for Andrea to get on, and she will then introduce our next set of speakers. And while we wait for Andrea to come in, I just wanted to quickly say, I hope you join us for day two and for the rest of the programming, for this week, because we have some really good conversations lined up for the next couple of days. Again, a variety of different brands and some really great speakers. And so I'm hoping that all of you can join us. And if by any chance, you were unable to join today's event, or maybe the rest of the events that we have going on, because of course life happens, meetings happen, please do tune in to our Brand Innovators channel on YouTube, where all of these conversations are going to be available for on-demand viewing. So please do that. I think we've